For Manchester City to get 2 signings over the line and Chelsea to get 1. If they do, they've got to get on with it. In the meantime, Manchester United have got a little bit more time because, of course, they've got until the end of the window, which is September 1st. I want to talk Manchester United with you, Dean. They've been linked with Gyokeres from Sporting. Would he be the answer for them?
I think he could be. I think he's probably one of the best I've seen since Didier Drogba in terms of leading the line as a lone striker. It's such a difficult role. It's really changed over the last decade or so of what's required of you as an out-and-out striker on your own. Goals maybe haven't been as important to a lot of teams that play with that player. That player, has to create space for the wide players to be the threat. But what he brings is this incredible physicality, ridiculous work ethic, developed his game at Coventry, which I saw signs of him leading the line so well with a team that wasn't at the top of the league, by the way. And then he's gone to Portugal and he's been sensational. And he's at that age where he's just really starting to understand that role, probably now feels the stature that you maybe need to go to a club like Manchester United where the expectation is so big. I honestly think it could be perfect in terms of what they require from that player. I think he's one of the best, certainly in Europe, at leading the line on his own.
Is there a worry, though, because he's never played in the Premier League, that it might not be the place for him?
No, I don't think so. I think he's played in England. The Championship is no easy league to play in, and the requirements physically for that league that you've got to go through. So I don't, and I think the development and how quickly he's developing, and more probably still to come, I don't see why you wouldn't just look at him. And I'm surprised there's not more clubs that are clamouring to get his signature, because I think he's only going to get better. And that position in particular now requires a certain talent to lead the line, I think, anyway.
Dharmesh, when he played for Coventry, you could have got him for £21 million. Why didn't clubs come in? Is it just snobbishness?
I wouldn't say snobbishness, but how many top Premier League clubs actually go to the Championship and recruit?
That's my point.
Sometimes you'll find that they would want that player, if they're keeping an eye on them, they almost take that calculated risk. We'll have to pay a little bit more, but we're going to need to see a little bit more, because the Championship might not be enough for him to make that jump to a top Premier League team and into the Champions League. It's the Portuguese league, number one. His record has been incredible, but also you've got to remember that he was scoring goals in the Champions League, scored a hat-trick against Manchester City as well in the Champions League last season. So he has shown that he can do it at that level. And if you're looking at United in particular, clearly, Ruben Amorim is a huge admirer of him. He's worked under Amorim before. He knows that formation. So for United, you're asking Dean the question, is he the answer? I mean, United have got a lot of work to do in all areas of the pitch. But if he wants to play in that formation and continue with that formation, and we've got no reason to believe that he won't, because he's very stubborn in that formation, is Amorim, you would think that someone like Viktor Gyokeres would be absolutely perfect, because he knows the manager and he knows that formation back to front. So it would be a fantastic signing if United can get it over the line. There was all this talk about he wanted to play Champions League football. Ruben Amorim was very, very pointed in one of his news conferences when he said, I only want players who want to play for Manchester United. It doesn't matter if we've got European football or not. If players are saying, I want to move to a Champions League club, I don't want that player to come to United. And I think he meant that regardless of whether United were in European football or not. He wanted them to come because it's Manchester United. So it'll be a test now of United's pull. But I just wonder whether the likes of Cunha and possibly Brian Mbeumo coming as well, whether that kind of signing can attract a player. I don't know if Dean's got a comment on that. When you see, if you're 50-50 about joining a club and then you see the kind of recruitment a club is making, you think, oh, right, they're going somewhere here. I want to be part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's normally one of the first questions you ask when you go and see the club and the manager is what are your ideas? Certainly as a slightly arrogant striker, you want to know who is going to supply you, and whether you're looking to bring in bring in other players, or is it going to be the players that are currently there? I mean, there are so many other facets that you think about when you're making a move, but as a striker, certainly, I think it is more of a draw to any player if you're seeing an Mbeumo being signed and a Cunha and those creative players, and the club are looking to improve massively as well with that.
Do Manchester United still have that pull?
I think they do, of course, yeah, because of the history of the club. And also, you don't know whether any of these players have grown up and when they've watched English football, Manchester United have been their side. And ultimately, they can still pay the big money. And, I'm not ashamed to say it, that you think of those things. If you've got two clubs looking at you and one of those is offering you a lot more money, an extra year, maybe guaranteeing you that you're going to start games. Those things are important to a player still.
Should be said here, United have made initial contacts via intermediaries over Viktor Gyokeres. So there hasn't been any club-to-club contact as far as we're aware at this stage. And a lot of people are saying, how can they afford Cunha, who's already at the club, Mbeumo, who is going to cost the thick end of £60 million as well, and Viktor Gyokeres, who's going to cost over £60 million as well. Well, I don't think Manchester United, despite all their financial and much publicised financial issues, are going into a transfer window with £0 to spend. They will have a certain budget, which we understand to be covered by Cunha and Mbeumo, and then maybe they will have to make sales to be able to fund a deal for someone like Gyokeres. But if you look at the players that they're signing in Cunha and Mbeumo, is that almost a message as well to the current players who are there, who could have played in the number 10 positions? Rashford, Sancho, Anthony, Garnacho, thanks, but we're going to listen to offers for you. And I'm sure United are expecting offers for these players to be able to fund the rest of their window.
Carve, what are the optics on this? A lot of people seems at United have lost their jobs, and yet they're going in for these players. What does it look like to you, that?
It's a very good question. I think the thing, though, is that with football clubs, especially clubs as big as Manchester United, they need to sign players. It's part of their business model. They've got to invest in the transfer market. It's what they do. They need players to put on the pitch to win things. So if I was somebody who worked at Manchester United and I'd been made redundant after I'd worked there for decades and decades and decades, yes, I would have mixed feelings this summer when I see that they are spending millions and millions of pounds on new players. But that is the way the modern football business works. I think Ineos have gone into Manchester United and brought in management consultants, and they've been told that, look, these are the cuts you can make going forward. The club needs to be much more efficient, and to do that, we have to make these people redundant. It's really sad what's happening at Manchester United and what's been happening there for a long time. But Ineos feel they have a plan to make things better. It's going to take time. It's not going to take just one window, but they believe that they're on the right track. And if you're a United fan, I suppose you've got no option but to put your faith in them.
Dean, how long has Amorim got, do you think, to turn things around?
I think a lot does depend on the recruitment, the ins and outs, because it's clear that he's trying to fight against certain players being at the club and wanting to change that playing squad to suit his style. And he's been so clear about that. He's even said in interviews that the ownership knew that this was the way I wanted to play and I am not going to deviate from that. Well, if the ownership believe in him, then they try and give him the players that will suit that system. Then if we all see that and we see the players that have come in that he can use in that system, then, after 3 or 4 months, if you're seeing nothing at all when you've spent that money and helped the manager, then of course the pressure's going to be on because of the expectation of the football club. And he'll know that, though.
We're getting towards the end of this window. Deal sheets, those two words which send a shiver down my spine. Tell us. Yeah,
we were wondering whether there was a deal sheet scenario with this transfer window. You asked me, yes, you did. And I can confirm that there is a deal sheet scenario here. And basically it's the same as we experienced in the last transfer window and every transfer window as well when it comes to deadline day. And that means that between, in this case, 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock, a deal sheet needs to be given in to the authorities to say that there's an intention to get a deal done. So basically, it just buys a little bit more time, but they have to have enough intention in that deal sheet to show that they want to complete this deal. So it has to have the signatures of both clubs and the player involved in this deal sheet. So from 5 o'clock until 7, that's the 2-hour grace period they have to hand in this deal sheet. If it is handed in and it's all clear and all legal, all above board, they will then have until 9 o'clock tonight, a further 2 hours, to completely complete any kind of deal. So maybe some of these deals that we have been talking about with Manchester City, with Chelsea, even though we haven't heard of them being completed, who knows, there might have been a deal sheet involved in them. OK, so extra time for us. Right, we are going to go back to our European football expert, Andy Brassel, now, who was with us in the last hour. Andy, I want to talk Viktor Gyokeres. Lots of talk that the league in Portugal, not as strong as others. Is he the answer for Manchester United?
Well, I think you can say quite honestly that the league in Portugal is not as strong as the very best in Europe. However, I think, as Dean was saying before, the numbers are extraordinary. For club and country, 63 goals last season, a ton of assists as well. He scored them in the Champions League, as Manchester City can tell you. He scored them for his national team alongside Alexander Isak. And I think really, if we're looking at what he can do for Manchester United or any other team who want to sign him, it's the fact that he can adapt to so many situations. He can play up front on his own. He can play in that too with Isak. And really, I think the partnership that they've had for Sweden so far, even though it's just in the early stages, shows how good both of them are. For them to be able to adapt and play to two up front when they're both alphas, I think is really hard and deserves a lot of credit on both sides. Now, Gyokeres, we talked about how he could handle the physical side of the Premier League. That was never in doubt. Technically, he's developed so much. I think if we're looking for a reason why he might go to Manchester United, that reason is two words: Ruben Amorim. Amorim absolutely begged the board at Sporting to sign him. He wouldn't leave them alone until they did sign him, and they sanctioned a club record deal to get him on board. So there's clearly an enormous amount of trust between those. So if you can get over where United are sports-wise at the moment, I think it's very much still on the table. Now, he's someone who won't be bullied by defenders. He can hold it up. He can run the channels. He's good finishing it with in front of him. He scores all types of goals with both feet. And he's got enormous confidence. And if he was going to Manchester United, he would be playing for a coach who he knows has turned him into a superstar.
Yeah, we compared his figures with Benjamin Sesko's, and Sesko's paled in comparison. Are Arsenal, who are chasing Sesko, are they looking at the right player?
I think that's a really good question. If I was in their position, I would be going for Gyokeres every day of the week. He's more developed. There's no doubt about that. Now, Arsenal like to do things differently. We know that. And Sesko has made sense for them for a long time. If you're looking at someone who's going to fit immediately, he's of such a high technical level. And when he was compared, as he inevitably was, after succeeding him at RB Salzburg to Erling Haaland, there was no comparison because Sesko was far more useful without the ball and far more useful outside the penalty box, but also because he's nowhere near the goal scorer of Erling Haaland. And will he ever be? I think is the question you have to ask. Now, he has improved his goal scoring this season, got 20 for Leipzig in all competitions. And of course, we know the Bundesliga is a really good competition. But we're looking at someone who's improving as a goal scorer. And that's, I guess, someone you would put in the same bracket, even though they're very different types of forward players. Bradley Barcola, for example, who PSG believe at some point will score them 30 goals in the season. And maybe they're right. And maybe that's the gamble you're taking on Sesko. And you know he'll click with the guys around him from minute one. But for me, don't Arsenal need someone different? Someone from outside the tent, someone who's got the sort of skill set that they don't have already. Now, look, I think going in for a developing player for that sort of money, even though he's developing fast, feels like a lot more of a risk. This would feel more like an Arteta signing than a Berta signing, because we know Andrea Berta likes to go for out-and-out centre forward. So I wonder if that's been the subject of some discussion behind the scenes at Arsenal. I love Sesko, but I'd far prefer Gyokeres.
That's really interesting. Chelsea walked away from the deal for Mike Maignan, the France #1 keeper. Do you think, given their goalkeeping problems, they'll walk back into that deal at some stage?
They really should. I mean, he'd be an absolute game changer for them. If we're talking about Chelsea being genuinely competitive at the top of the Premier League next season, making some sort of dent in the Champions League, we know there's a lot of talent there, although not in the goalkeeping department, I think it's fair to say, where there's numbers more than there is talent. Now, Maignan is not only someone who would be a massive step up in terms of quality, in terms of what they've got goalkeeping-wise, because he's one of the very best goalkeepers in the world. But in terms of experience, because we know he'd be the oldest player, 29 going on 30, going into that Chelsea team, he's a real leader as well. And he has been since day one with France and with Milan. And he's had to be because he came up a difficult way, came through the PSG Academy and they rejected him, which I suspect they regret. Did really well at Lille. Then when he went to Milan, similarly, Scudetto winner, did well in the Champions League. And I think is what he's done with France that's really the key. You think of what Chelsea are missing in terms of leadership to take them to that next level on the pitch, to traverse those difficult periods. And there were definitely periods where it looked like they were going to miss the Champions League for all the good things that they'd done under Maresca last season. Maignan is the guy who stands up in the France dressing room and says to Mbappe or says to Griezmann when he was still playing, that's not good enough. What are you going to do better? Not every player would do that. And I think to have someone who doesn't talk all the time, but when he speaks, people listen, that would be another enormously valuable asset for Chelsea.
Massively. Reporter Vinny O'Connor's got a tough gig. He is in Madrid for us. Vinny, very good evening. So, Howson, how did he do in the spotlight?
He came across, Mike, as someone who's really relishing the opportunity to call that famous stadium behind me home. He was composed, he was in control throughout, didn't really give too much away either, and you kind of got an impression as to exactly what he went through today. Introduced by Florentino Perez to a room full of people. He was then sat next to his parents as they showed a video of his career highlights before he then had to give a speech. By the way, some of those highlights, when you look at what he did as a younger player as well, striding out from the back, going to the edge of the box and curling in goals, he really is a spectacular player. We know about his prowess, of course, in the box as well, his height, his aerial ability when it comes to scoring goals, but also his defensive qualities as well. And you just got a sense of what becoming a Real Madrid player meant to him today. He moved over to Spain as a youngster with his parents, and that's where his affinity with Real Madrid grew. And you saw pictures of him today as a young boy wearing his Real Madrid kit. And then again, he spoke about Sergio Ramos, what a hero he is to him. The fact that he sees Sergio Ramos as the most complete, the best central defender ever, he put it at one point, and he wants to take every part of his game as well. When it came to that number 4 shirt, he was a little bit less forthcoming. Yes, I think it is his ambition, reading between the lines, to follow Sergio Ramos in wearing that number 4 shirt. But of course, he's very respectful of the fact that David Alaba currently holds that shirt here at Real Madrid as well. So it was a very good performance from Dean Howson today. He's certainly settling in, albeit he only arrived yesterday, underwent those medical checks. Obviously, has spoken to Xabi Alonso, and they're just building up now to that Club World Cup, of course, just a few days before Real Madrid fly out to the USA for that. But he certainly feels a part of things already.
OK, so that's Howson. When will we see Trent Alexander-Arnold in a Real Madrid shirt?
We will see him on Thursday. That's the expectation. It's not been officially confirmed by Real Madrid. We're expecting that confirmation to come through tomorrow. Of course, Trent Alexander-Arnold is still involved with England, and we expect him to play some part against Senegal this evening. It was interesting, actually, speaking to the Madrid journalists today as well and seeing how Trent Alexander-Arnold is going to fit into things. Clearly, they're looking to overhaul that back line with the arrival of Howson and the arrival of Trent Alexander-Arnold as well, and both of them being eligible to play in the Club World Cup. But it's how Trent Alexander-Arnold is going to fit into that side. Obviously, Lucas Vazquez, he fills the void left behind by him. At the same time, there's still Carvajal here to compete with. And the chat amongst the Madrid journalists today was that obviously they've seen Trent Alexander-Arnold playing that hybrid role, moving slightly into midfield for Liverpool at times over the last couple of seasons. But here at Real Madrid, they believe that he's going to be asked to be played more as an out-and-out right-back. He will be asked to get forward, of course, but they expect more from him defensively as well. So there'll be work to do for Trent Alexander-Arnold, but a massive challenge, and he was obviously looking for a new challenge when he made the decision to come over to Real Madrid.
I want to talk Rodrygo, Vinny. We know that Arsenal are interested in him. Are Real Madrid desperate to keep him?
Well, I was wondering whether this was going to be a way of raising funds to get a deal for Zubimendi done. But when we spoke to those around the club today at that news conference as well, it was very much felt that despite those reports over here that Real Madrid could hijack Arsenal's move for Zubimendi, he was going to get that medical done at Arsenal and complete a deal there. So as regards Rodrygo, I think you have to look at what Xabi Alonso said when he arrived as the Real Madrid head coach. He said straight away, Rodrygo is a Madrid player, he's a spectacular player, and we will need him. And you look at what he did last season, 51 games, 14 goals, 10 assists. I think the slight debate is that those connected with the club expected him to kick on a little bit more. He got 17 goals the previous season, of course, and they perhaps expected him to improve even further on those numbers at the same time as well. Listening to what they have said around the club, Rodrygo feels that under Alonso he wants to be a real significant player. To that end, though, he feels more comfortable playing off the left-hand side. The problem there is Vinicius Junior occupies that role for Real Madrid, and then it's further complicated fitting Rodrygo into the side, the fact that Kylian Mbappe is here as well. And certainly Xabi Alonso is very much his own man when it comes to choosing tactics as well. That's where the debate is as to whether it's maybe the right time for a parting the waves between Real Madrid and Rodrygo at the moment. But all we can say, certainly at this time, is that he remains a Real Madrid player, and Xabi Alonso's sentiments are that he wants to keep hold of him as well.
Vinny O'Connor, live from Madrid. Thanks, Vinny. Right, Dean, I need you to explain something to me. I'm always told players cannot turn down Real Madrid. Why?
I think it's because of the history. I think it's the aura of that shirt and what it brings. The players that have played for the club. Isn't it just a shirt? No, it's not. It's almost whiter than white. It's just it is strange because you're right. It's just a white shirt, but I think it's the history. It's the stadium. It's what you've seen the players that have played for that club achieve and create. I think sort of makes you almost spellbound a little bit with that. For me, actually, it was as a kid growing up. It was AC Milan. It was the San Siro. It was Marco van Basten. Yeah. Someone who was my hero as a kid. That to me was the sort of the team I would always love to have put on that shirt and played for. Obviously, it didn't happen. But for him, I mean, what a moment it must be. Like childhood dream to play for a club like Real Madrid. I don't think he's quite confident enough yet to go, I want the number 4. And if I'm not having it, I'm not happy. I don't think he'll do that. But what business for Bournemouth. I mean, just incredible to have only played the one season with them, and then to get that move is quite incredible.
And Carve, how far have Bournemouth come that they can sell players to a club like Real Madrid for 50 million quid?
Well, it's not just one as well, because Milos Kerkez could be going to Liverpool for around £50 million as well, although I don't think Liverpool want to pay that much. PSG are also trying to sign their other centre-back, Zabani. Luis Campos, the PSG sporting director, really rates him highly. And I think once PSG come in for you, it's very difficult to not agitate for a move. I'm not saying that's what the player is doing, but when you see how well PSG played in the Champions League final and how they could dominate European football for perhaps the next few seasons, surely that's one of the places you want to be as well. But I think Bournemouth, it's all about the structure of the club, the way the club is run, the recruitment at the club. They found these players, and I'm sure they will find their replacements as well. If you're a Bournemouth fan, you know, with all due respect, you're not expecting Dean Howson to stay at the club for his whole career, especially because when they signed him, he had this £50 million release clause in his contract.
But Dharmesh, if you're a Bournemouth fan, you're going to be pretty annoyed, aren't you, that your backline is going to be decimated when you had a great season and you feel like you could build on in the next season.
I mean, Bournemouth have sold players in the past and their recruitment is fantastic. They keep rebuilding and getting to a position where they can perform well on the pitch under a fantastic manager now in Andoni Iraola, who's been attracting interest from a number of the biggest clubs. So, yes, of course, Bournemouth are going to be upset. Their fans will be upset that the likes of Howson has gone. Kerkez looks like he might going. A couple of others as well. But they're already making moves to replace these players. And I'm sure when they know that they've got a player who's going to command such a big transfer fee, their work into a potential replacement will have gone on long before. It's not a case of, there goes Dean Howson, or what are we going to do? They'll know what they're going to do because they're so well drilled in their recruitment. You can compare them to clubs like Brighton and Brentford as well, who are very similar, who sometimes have to let go of some of their better players. And everyone says, well, they're going to struggle now, and yet they always seem to find a way.
Yeah, fair point.
Casi a producto nuevo por semana, producto bonito que, por supuesto, pues siempre invitamos a la gente a que consuma. Si queréis encontrarlo en kingsleague.pro, pues ahí tenéis las nuevas chaquetas training y también esas camisetas especiales con detalles dorados que llevan todos los equipos.
Oye, ustedes tendrán más memoria que yo, pero ¿cuánto quedaron la última vez que se enfrentaron ellos?
3-4 ganó 1K.
3-4.
En el histórico de estos dos equipos, el que gane desempata, porque han ganado 2. El X-Boyer Team ha ganado 2. 1.
Becker se lleva el rebote. Becker para marcar. Becker. El rechazo de Arnold. ¡Gol!
¡Vamos! ¡Vamos!
¡Gol!
¡Vamos, Pablo! ¡Qué suerte!
Mascarra en el Cooper Arena. ¡Gol de Pablo Becker!
No será capaz, ¿no? ¡No será capaz! ¡Qué cabrón! ¡Qué cabrón!
A ver
Si
sale el
sacan
2.
más de 3, se quedan sin trabajo. Mira, muy
¡Hombre!
bien.
Dos,
¿Cómo
bien.
valoran el trabajo? Bien.
Ahí está ese ataque por parte del X-Boyer Team. El toque dentro de Becker. Puede marcar Carbó. ¡Gol! ¡Gol! Pablo Becker. Becker que quiere poner el centro por delante. Finalmente lo pone por detrás del defensor. Carbó la pista. Carbó.
No jodas.
¡Es el mejor de esta puta competición!
¡Por algo es el Corona de Oro! China la juega atrás, no se decidió a tirar. Granero busca su perfil, Granero.
Golazo.
¡Gol! De 1K. Marca Granero. Y sí, otra vez lo ha vuelto a hacer. Buller, mira, no,
Gol doble. Gol doble, claro, porque tiene sanción. Ah, claro, vale, vale.
Sanción, efectivamente. Grande. Claro que sí. Bueno, sinceridad ante todo. Ahí está. Juanma el toque. ¡Gol!
Vale.
¡Velilla! ¡Gol! Balón que lleva ahí Pluvins el disparo. ¡Gol!
Vale.
¡Gol!
Me gusta.
Está haciendo un buen trabajo defensivo, ojo.
¡Granero!
¡Qué golazo!
¡Qué chicharro de Marc Granero! ¡Qué barbaridad! El recorte de zurda y el disparo con la derecha. Que la metió en la escuadra. Ojo ahora que ataca el X-Boyer Team. ¡Gol! Va a pegar Fuad en la falta.
Santa madre de Dios. Sí.
Vamos a ver ahí esa pelota dentro del área para Juanma que lo puede matar. ¡Gol!
2 de Juanma.
Sí, no podía ser otro que Roger Carbó. No sé si te imaginabas que tu vuelta iba a ser de esta manera.
Pues la verdad que no, o sea, ha sido la vuelta ideal. Hat-trick, partido de octavos y mañana jugamos cuartos, o sea, ha sido ideal. Aunque el trabajo no, o sea, me lo llevo yo, pero el trabajo es de todos. Hemos trabajado mucho y al final los resultados se han visto reflejados en el campo, así que muy contento.
Parecía o puede parecer que sois el rival más débil por todas las bajas, pero en los pasillos se comenta que nadie quiere enfrentarse a vosotros.
Bueno, a ver, yo escuché una persona que dijo de Gigantes que quería enfrentarse a nosotros, así que mañana a las 9 no te preocupes que estaremos aquí con muchas ganas, y más después de esas declaraciones. ¿Sabes por quién voy?
Yo no lo sé quién es.
No lo voy a decir, esta persona lo sabe.
Bueno, pues enhorabuena.
Muchas gracias.